Annie, I do want to talk about agriculture because I can see some questions that are coming about agriculture, and it would be absolutely an incomplete session if I do Lincoln University and do not talk about agriculture. Now, I know that we've talked about there's a few people that have joined us that are not in New Zealand. They're offshore. They're wanting to get into agriculture. So there's a few courses. Can you just take us through the range of courses in agriculture, and if you really need to be from agriculture to get into those courses, or how does it work? Can you change your field?
Oh, how much time do we have?
Well, I can give you all night, but we will leave something for the next session. So let's give it another 3 minutes maybe, and let's find out where the agriculture sits with Lincoln and what kind of students are you looking at?
So if I take a step back and say agriculture, so if you come from a non-science background and you want to get into agriculture science, then it's better to start with a graduate diploma, because the reality is if you are going to learn the science behind agriculture, animal science, soil science, plant science, etc., you do need to come from, if you have already had a bachelor degree, then the graduate diploma is a good way to start. Unfortunately, it's not the news you want to hear, but look, if you don't know the science behind the science, and if you are a Bachelor of Arts in history, you want to get into agriculture science, you do need to have that basic science background. So the graduate diploma in applied science will be a good way to start.
But and that requires with a science background to get in, isn't it? You kind of need to understand and pass the course, isn't it? If you can't understand the terminology because you've done commerce, would that be setting a student up to fail, or would that not even meet the entry requirement?
So graduate diplomas is designed for students to change discipline. The reality is, if you have a bachelor degree, you have the ability to learn. So if you want to learn, there's nothing to stop you at the graduate level, and you should be able to. I think there's one thing about New Zealand education which I really love, is that if you really want to learn, if you are prepared to put in the effort, there's nothing to stop you from learning. But you do need to be realistic about the level. So if you come from a BCom wanting to do a Bachelor of Master of Agriculture Science, of course your application will be declined.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the science background to be able to do the research in the Master of Agriculture Science. Yeah.
So Preet is asking us a question, and he's asking that he's got a BCom background. Can he actually get into the grad dip in agriculture? And that's what I really want to know. So from a BCom, can you actually move and shift into a grad dip?
We can definitely consider his application for the graduate diploma in applied sciences, which will allow him to choose courses from subjects like food science, agriculture science, horticulture science, environmental science courses. So if he really wants to, he could do our viticulture and oenology, which is the grapes, to do with grapes and winemaking.
Yeah. And they are in the skill shortage list as well, those courses. Those occupations from those courses are in the skill shortage list.
And my favorite.
Yeah, of course, all of our favorites. You're in New Zealand, you need to love viticulture. We all love wine here. So with the grad dip, so that's great. You can get in from any other background. Obviously, if you're from science, it's preferable. And then the second option is the masters, isn't it? So for a masters, what kind of background are you looking at for a student?
So there are a few scenarios. So for students who come from if you already have a Bachelor of Agriculture or horticulture from your home country, then your options at Lincoln is quite a lot. So you could look at, if you want to get a combination of technology, data, and agriculture, you can study our Master of Precision Agriculture. This is we're talking about background, not necessarily the percentage. I'm just assuming that you meet the percentage requirement. You could look at Master of Management, possibly in agribusiness. You could also look at subjects like Master of Science in Food Innovation if you want to become get involved in the food industry.
Food technology, and that is in the occupations and the outcomes from that Master of Science in Food Innovation leads you to become a food technologist and all of those, and they are in the long-term skill shortage list. Those occupations are known to be an absolute skill shortage in New Zealand. So just for me to understand, so the Masters in Agriculture, the course, the Masters Science, is that a year or year and a half course? How long is?
So the Master of Science in Food Innovation, that is a 3-semester, 12-month study. Yeah, so it's 1 year, but it's back-to-back study. You start either February or July, and it's a 12 months. So you also study during summer. The Master of Precision Agriculture is the same. You start in February, you finish by the following February.
Just for me to understand, Annie. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and for the we do have a Master of Agriculture Science or Master of Horticulture Science. Those are 2 years research masters. You might be better if you want to just do a 1 year studies. If you come from agriculture, you might want to consider a postgraduate diploma in agriculture science. If you come from a horticulture background, you might want to go into if you want to continue to do research later on, then you might look at the postgrad in horticulture science. The Master of Management
So if someone's actually done a Bachelor's of Science, say from India, sitting in India, and they're looking at pursuing a career in agriculture, what is the course that so this person is someone who doesn't have a work experience, they've done the Bachelor's of Science, maybe in chemistry or food biology or whatever, and they're wanting to get into the next course. Which course would you actually recommend them? Because I'm struggling to understand the difference between the precision agriculture and the Master of Science in Agriculture. So just talk us through it, please.
Okay. The Master of Agriculture Science, it's a 2 years research masters. So we do need you to come from an agriculture science background to be able to conduct the second year of the research. And that you do need to have a research interest. You really need to know what you want to get on. And New Zealand's kind of agriculture areas, our research is mainly focused on dairy, meat, sheep and cattle. So it's more in these 2 areas. But if you're looking at, say, for example, a coursework master, top master that doesn't have a huge amount of research, and you're not interested in PhD, then you could look at subjects like MSc Food Innovation if you want to get into the food science industry, because that is designed for students coming from microbiology, biology, food, agriculture, horticulture, zoology, botany. Those, as long as in your undergraduate degree you have a strong foundation in microbiology, biology, then you can be admitted for this program. The other thing is coming from engineering background, agriculture engineering, horticulture science, but you want to get into the future of agriculture. So you wanted to be smarter. You want to continue to be involved in the agriculture production industry, but it's looking at sustainability, profitability, understand the data so that you invest, for example, the right fertilizer in the right space. So precision agriculture is important. And if you search for jobs, it may not be really obvious on the job market, but it is a job. It is an employment. It is, an industry for the future. Because you think about the climate change, you think about the COVID, for example. If we don't use technology and be smart about agriculture production then we don't have food, right?
That's right.
If we don't have, and we all want to eat. We all have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And this is why we need the food science students, because they also need to look at when we produce the food, the crops. How do we preserve them or innovate them so that we don't waste food? Yeah. So
I think that's really valuable.
Safety is really important. Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. That's really valuable. Sorry.
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah, you continue.
No, so I think that's really valuable, because we are sort of not just looking at the courses, but we're looking at sort of like funneling into the courses and funneling out, and where that industry sort of sits within the New Zealand landscape. I know that we weren't going to talk about this course, but I really want to just, for people listening, and they will listen in the future that look at this video, does the university offer any cross credits? Because there could be students sitting overseas doing a bachelor's of science, and I know that with New Zealand and how attractive New Zealand is right now to the world, a lot of parents would be looking at their children coming and sort of continuing the bachelor's degrees here. And I know that Lincoln University offers a bachelor's of food science. So if you had a student that's sitting, say, for example, in Southeast Asia somewhere, doing a bachelor's of food science in their home country, and they've probably done a year, and they want to really transfer over and finish the rest of the 2 years, is there an opportunity for them to be able to get cross credit for what they've done so they can continue over and not start over again?
Yeah. So for students, so the universities often will ask the students to apply for what we call advanced standing. So what we'll look at is what they've studied, the content of their study, and sometimes they can be cross-credited into what we call the non-specific electives or the specific electives. So we could allow students to up to 1 year of the
A maximum of 1 year.
Yeah. So unless or with some universities where we have agreement, then it could be up to 2 years. But normally speaking, it could we look at, like, without looking at the content, I think it could be up to 1 year, depending on what the students have studied.
So that's fantastic, because that is an option definitely for them to, continue the bachelor's degree rather than restart. If you have any questions, absolutely contact us and one of our team members can help you. And we can help you with finding the right course for you, getting you the visa sorted, plus getting the visa sorted for the entire family. And we'll also throw in the career options in there. Annie, look, I thank you so much. You're obviously this treasure box of information and knowledge because you've been in the industry for such a long time. Is there anything that you want to talk about before we wrap this up? We will have you back because we've got so much more to cover.
Yeah, I do want to say that I actually shared it with some students recently. I just want to say that, time is tough. Please stay calm.